Hey there guys, it's me Malorian. This is a season 1, episode 2 already of Malorian Weekly. I know you just got one this week, but hey, this is my show. I get to choose when I make them. I want to make at least one per week, but I can do one. More, two more, who cares? No big whoop. Want to fight about it? And today I got a topic that I really want to cover because it comes from one of my viewers and a great guy who's trying to do really great things with his meta. It comes from Andrew Brown, from the Southwest Wargamers, and what he wants to know is, what do you do in a situation where you don't have a store? So I think the way that I want to take this, so I can cover all the different angles you might be coming from with this topic, is I want to talk about a future with no stores, because there's really an effect on everyone on this topic. Maybe you're a person from one of those metas that doesn't have a hobby store, and that's really tough to deal with. Or maybe you're one of those people where there's a hobby store in your area, but your shift just does not work with it, or maybe it's just too far away, or who knows what it is. But even for those people who are like, this video's not for me, just like, I'm going to cancel it right now, I'm not going to watch this, well, guess what? It could be in your future too. Stores close all the time. It's moving to a world where things are going through Amazon and online purchases. And the more that occurs, the more that your friendly, local game store could go the way of Blockbuster. So it's something that you cannot just take for granted. You have to be really appreciating what you have and thinking about what you need to do to make sure you keep that store. So we're going to be talking about why that store is so important for you. We're going to be talking about what you can do if you don't have a store. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to be talking about the different things that you can be doing to make sure you keep having a store, because like we're about to say, it's fairly important. So that first topic, let's just get into it. Why do we even care? Let all the stores close. They're no big deal to us. Well, they are a big deal to us. If nothing else, they are a central focus point for all the gameplay in your region. So like we just said, it's nice to have a spot where you can buy models, but it's much more than that, right? There's nothing stopping people from just going and ordering their own models online. The purchasing part is not by itself the main issue. The main issue is having this central location that everybody can meet at. The next part of it too is the fact that, look, this is a store that has places where you can actually play, right? A lot of people in their homes might be able to fit in one table if they wanted, but do they even have the resources for that? Running a game is not a simple matter of like, hey buddy, come on over, we'll play a game. You have to have a spot that's the right size for the table for the game you're playing. You have to have the mat, you have to have the terrain, possibly the scenario stuff, the clock, depending on how far you have to get into it. And so your normal person doesn't have all those things, whereas normally your friendly local game store does. So it's a place you can go. Everybody can say, all right, Thursday's our night. We're going to be going here at Thursdays at 7 o'clock or whatever it is. And everybody knows to meet there. There's places for all those different things to be there. And then you get to play. But then it's even more past that, because while everyone is there and everyone is centralized, and of course hobby stores don't just sell one thing, they sell several things. So when fellow nerds come in to buy their own thing, maybe it's comic books, maybe it's a different war game, maybe it's Magic the Gathering, who knows, they're looking at like, oh, what's this game that all these people are playing? That looks awesome. I want to play it too. And that really builds into where part of that buying power is important, because if a store has all those things there in front of you, the new player can walk in and be like, oh, that game looks awesome. The starter set's over here. Awesome. Let's grab it. I'll see you next Thursday. Or for your more veteran player, you can walk in and be like, you know what? I've always wanted to have a hurricane. You know what? I'm going to go grab this hurricane and I'm going to be using it next time. And all of a sudden, those little buys that you want just like for the inspiration, because I want to play this game, I want to do something awesome. Well, guess what? That really enables it, because all those things are right there. If you're a person that's playing in your basement or something, that's not available to you. So that's all awesome. That's awesome. Stores are great. If there's any store owners watching, you're awesome. But what do you do if you're living in a world that doesn't have these? where do you go from this? And this is where Andrew Brown is coming from, in a meta where there just isn't a local store, and he's trying his best to get this thing going. Well, the biggest thing that you need to do to start off with is finding a way to start up the communication and make sure that everybody knows what's going on. In his case, he's made a new Facebook group, the Southwest Wargamers, and this is where people in the area can go to so they can start talking, and not only just like, hey, let's talk War Machine, because the more we talk about something, the more we're interested in it, but also, where are the events? What are we going to be doing? How can we be getting games? So having a spot where you can organize those things is important. You know, it's one thing if the store is saying, hey, look, there's the schedule, be here on Thursday, but when you don't have that, you need something else that's going to be giving out that communication and giving that leadership. Like, all right, listen, everybody, we're going to be getting together to paint here on this day. We're going to be going here on this day for this mini steamroller. Who's interested? You just need something that's replacing that store for that central focus point. Now, the next spot you're going to have then is, well, where are you going to go, right? We said in the last one, well, we'll be going to the stores, so you're going to need to find something else, and you're going to have to be a little bit creative. Maybe it's at one of your houses. Maybe somebody in the area has a gracious heart, has a large house, and has the room to be setting all these things up. Maybe it's in a garage, right? If you're in a warm area, not Canada, that means you can then play in there all year round, but you need some place like that. Now, if you don't have it because it's, let's say everyone there is living in apartments and there's just not room to be doing a larger scale thing, that's okay. You can be setting up one-off games all over the place, but also remember that in all this, you're going to need those resources I talked about. You need to have the tables, you need to have the mats, you need the terrain, the scenario, possibly even the clocks. Although, do realize that in those things, you can share, right? It's not like one person needs to own all these things. You as a community, really, if just half of you have one table's worth, that's perfect. You now have everything you need. One of the most inspiring things I ever saw was going to an X-Wing tournament and like, this thing starts in 5 minutes. What the hell? This is an empty gym. And then seeing all these X-Wing players come in, set up tables, setting up their own mats and things that they brought, is like, boom, we're good to go. Now in X-Wing, there's a fewer things you need. You know, instead of having a bunch of terrain and scenario pieces, you need just some like little cardboard rocks that you put down. But still, the idea that, you know, they're working together like as a tribe to work together here to make this work is what's going to be really important here. And if you're in this area where you don't have that store, you really need to do that. You really need to work together. Now, in talking about trying to be creative and finding other solutions, well, maybe even though there's not a hobby store, maybe there's a different store that would be up to doing this. Maybe when you work in a spot, we had this here in a local town here where one of the people ran the store and it was nothing to do with hobbies. It was more to do with tiling and carpeting and stuff like that. And guess what? There's lots of room there. He opened things up and people go there to play. You might have to go rent something. You might have to go and say, look, there's this hall here. We're just nerds. We're not making any money, but you know, nobody's using this space every Saturday from 1 till 4 or whatever is your timing. Can I rent this? And then all of a sudden, maybe everybody's going to get together and chip in a few bucks. You know, this thing might take some money to get off the ground. Or what some other people have done, and especially around here, we had a store for a while that was really a farce of a store. It was a business that somebody had bought. They had really just like put a lease on this building. People would order their models through there and they'd play there, and then they would kind of like use the money to kind of like be able to charge back to their taxes and blah blah blah. Basically, they wanted a spot that just be budget neutral in the end, just raising enough money in order to just pay the rent, and then look, that's a place we can go play. So again, you're gonna have to be creative. You're gonna have to find a way to do this. Now, lastly, you need not to have just a place that you can communicate, not just a place to play. You are going to need to have people that are press gangers. So this is a great program that we used to have, where to be these people be like, hey, come out and play. Let's do this tournament. Let's do this. Well, sadly, that program doesn't exist anymore, but it does still in people's hearts. There's definitely people out there that are still press gangers. You know, I'm definitely the press ganger in my area, where I'm always out there every Monday saying, all right, here's the gaming days. Who's going to what day? Hey, this tournament's coming up. who's coming out. Hey, that painting's looking great. Let's do a painting challenge. And you need someone to take that control and to take that lead. Just yesterday, there was a comment there in the general War Machine forum talking about, man, there's no tournaments in Texas. I wish there were tournaments in Texas. Well, guess what? Run your tournaments there in Texas, and then there will be. Be the change that you want to be seeing. There has to be someone taking the lead, and the one comment that was brought up in that one is like, well, what if I run someone and like nobody comes? Well, great, but you need a starting point. When I started first running tournaments, I had like 3 people or 4 people, and that's including me being there, and they were small, but we had fun. And as we started organizing these things and people realized like, oh, we should be there for the tournament every month, okay, we'll be there. It grew and it grew and it grew, and that's what you need someone to do. So I mean, like, that's what Andrew Brown is doing there, really pushing, trying to draw people together, saying, hey, we're all gamers that love this stuff in the same area. Let's try and get these things together. Hey, I'm going to post out fluff to get you interested in these different things. Let's put up just some War Machine pictures. Let's start up some topics. You need someone to really bring up that energy and make these things happen. And I think another thing you need to really realize too is when you're trying to think of the different people that are in your area, don't assume that the people that you know are in your area are all the people in your area. It's always surprising to me to learn that there's always these little pockets of players everywhere. Now, of course, if you're in a smaller town where you know everybody, okay, you might know everybody and you might know who's actually playing. But if you're in a larger city, well, then all of a sudden you have to start realizing that you might not realize that there's a smaller store over here that might have like a pocket of 4 gamers over there. Or in all these different basements, there's these people that have been playing War Machine since like Mark 1, and maybe they're not on Facebook. Maybe they don't know these things. And you had to find a way to grab them and pull them in. Especially if you're in that smaller area where there's not a store, you maybe are struggling locally to try and get enough people to get an event, you have to find a way to contact them. So whether you're going to be when there is an event, maybe you're going to go and try and figure out where are all the stores in town. I'm going to put up a little leaflet. I'll ask permission. I'll be like, hey, we got this tournament coming up. Can I please put this up in your window? Yeah, sure. And that's how, just like how we said before, people would walk into a hobby store and be like, oh, what are you playing? I want to play that too. They might be walking in to get a train set or something from what other store. Maybe they're going to the grocery store and you're going to be putting it there and be like, wow, there's other people that play War Machine. I want to go there and I'm going to play at that event. So you really should be optimistic and understanding that there's lots of nerds playing just in their basement that don't go out. And please, when I say nerds, I am a nerd. I'm not saying this is negative. It's just someone who really loves their game. Probably geek is the better word. We're not going to get into it. But the thing is that these pockets of people exist and you're not alone. So all you need to do is put in the effort to find these people, pull them together, and then all of a sudden it can grow from there. So that power is in your hands. All right, we talked about why stores are important. We talked about what you can do if you don't have a store. The next thing I want to be talking about is what do you do if you have a store and you want to keep having a store. Now, like I said, the world is going to a spot where there's more Amazon purchases and stuff like that, all online. And so that really means that we as gamers have to be cognizant of that and making sure that you support your local gaming stores. When you make your purchases, you might save 5, 10, whatever percent getting it online. But if you don't buy from your local store, they are not going to be able to afford to actually keep operating, and you will have to then be in that situation where we don't have a store anymore. When I brought that situation where, like, look, you might have to rent a space, a lot of you were probably like, oh, I'm not going to put that money into it. Well, realize that store owner is putting that money into it, and it's more than just like, I want to have this building open so that people can come in and play. This is where they earn their money from so they can eat and live and, you know, sleep in a house type thing. So it's very important that you go and you support them. It's always important to show them how you appreciate them, but more so, money is going to talk louder than words. You have to be making your purchases there wherever reasonable. You know, if you got some store where they're charging 50% extra than what it's worth, okay, the law of demand might start having to come in and they might have to learn their lesson. But at the same time, you can have those conversations. Don't just boycott them. Say, like, look, I can get these things online for 30% less than what you're doing. Can you cut me a bit of a break? I want to support you, but I don't want to slip my wrist at the same time, right? So you can have those conversations, or like I said, if it's small enough, it's better off to do that support wherever you can. And then, of course, think of it this way. For the part there where I said where you need to be the press gangers and you're pulling people in, know that the more that you're pulling people in and sending them there, being like, hey, look, War Machine is great, you should go here to buy your models. Well, even if you yourself, maybe you own everything that you need and you're not buying very much, if you're putting your efforts into pulling people in so they're buying things from a store, well, then all of a sudden that's a way that they're making that money, they can stay open, and that's a place you can go play at. Another thing you want to think about too is while you're pulling those people in, you might be able to kick things off again. So whether you're in a spot that doesn't have a store, or maybe you're in a place that's going to be losing a store, well, something you can do then as well is trying to encourage other stores to be bringing in these products. If they know they're going to be making money from them, it's something they might be interested in. So like, for example, I brought up that maybe this store is generally just selling trains or something like that. You can go to them and like, hey, look, have you talked to your distributors? Do they have this War Machine product? If you bring it in, I have a group of gamers that are looking to play. And if we have a place to play, we're going to be buying for you. Store owners are there to make money. Plus, I mean, it's not just cold and heartless like that. They probably also love the hobby life as well. But if they know that, hey, look, this is something I can bring in this product, I can make this money, I can make these people happy, they're probably going to try and do their best to try and do these things. So that's probably where you want to go with that. So anyway, there you have it. Stores are super important for people who are out there in a meta that don't have a store. Don't lose hope. There are ways that you can make this work, but you have to make this work. You have to put in the effort, and if you don't, things just get worse, and then you lose your stores. Well, we said you didn't have a store, but anyway, you got to put in that effort to make these things happen. You have to make sure you're pulling people together. If you have a store, you have to be drawing people to that store. You have to be buying from there. That's the way the system works, folks. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments on these, we have a comment section again, so that's fantastic. And otherwise, we'll catch you later.